Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Sovereign Millennial channel with me, your host, Hope Highheit, where we talk about millennial money and nomad life. We discuss things like investing, how to manage your personal finances, generating passive income, and leveraging geo arbitrage to live our best life. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my personal portfolio and the investments I'm currently making for the medium to long term. So when it comes to investing or trading in general, there's two types of investors, right? So we have the more macro focused, the more long-term investors, and we have the more short-term focused traders, which will speculate on short-term price movements, right? So personally, what I consider to be investing is the more long-term, more macro outlook, macroeconomic and geopolitical outlook of things. And in my previous video, I discussed how 2020 and the COVID pandemic will change life forever, and how going forward there's going to be a lot of adjustments that all of us will have to make. And that also gives a lot of opportunities in terms of where things are going in the future. And we can observe that to make our investment decisions as well. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is precious metals, things like gold and silver. I am investing in gold and silver ETFs because I believe that in any time of uncertainty, gold and silver, especially gold, is always a good hedge against any sort of macroeconomic uncertainty. And currently we're in a time of uncertainty, right? So we're seeing, the pandemic is something that's very, very unusual in recent times, and it's caused a lot of confusion and people not understanding what's going on and where things are going to go. And of course, central banks are printing money like crazy. I've discussed this before in my previous videos as well. So, people don't feel as comfortable holding on to cash at the moment because they're afraid of long-term inflation without the new money supply coming in. So in times like this, despite the stock market going up like crazy thanks to all the capital injections, in times like this, precious metals like gold, which has been a multi-century store of value for humans, right? So that's always going to be something that people will look at when they're uncertain about the macro environment. So I'm fairly bullish on gold and silver as well, because historically gold and silver have been at this relative ratio of I think around 60-1 price-wise, and currently silver seems a bit undervalued in terms of that, so there might be even more upside for silver, although of course it's not as recognized and as reliable nor as rare a precious metal as gold is. So if you've been following the price of gold and silver, you would have noticed that gold has been making new all-time highs this year. So I believe the previous all-time high set almost 10 years ago was around $1,900 US dollars. But today, this year, the price of gold has broken that level, and I think it's gone a bit over $2,000 a couple months ago, and now it's kind of consolidating in the $1,900 range once more. So with, as I mentioned earlier, with a huge expansion of the money supply overall, there's more units of money in the system. I don't think it's unrealistic to see gold going much, much higher, possibly $3,000 or more. So I'm very bullish for gold, especially with the macro environment, and I think it's something that a lot of people will find to be a good store of value going forward. So obviously that was gold and silver, which I foresee to be a good investment for the next 1 or 2 years. And then similarly, I see a similar case in cryptocurrencies, especially in Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, because the macro kind of implications here are slightly different, because Bitcoin and Ethereum, cryptos in general, they don't have a long history like gold, and they're not so traditionally established and widely recognized by the old money per se, right? But at the same time, they're digital. Bitcoin especially is decentralized. It cannot be controlled by any central entity or government, and it's a really good form of money, alternative form of money and store of value that is natively digital and borderless, right? So I talked about Bitcoin in a previous video before. So why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin and Ethereum is that if you look around you, our world is moving very, very quickly digital in every single aspect, whether it's food delivery, calling taxis, Airbnb, or now even with remote working arrangements and Zoom calls and Slack and all these things, right? So everything's going digital, digital, digital. Even dating, I mean, all things that we never would have considered to be digital 10 years ago, right? Everything's transforming really, really rapidly to fully digital. And what that means is if everything, all the value and all the work are accruing online, then it just makes sense that value, a measure of value, so in this case money, or assets, right? These things have to be online and become natively digital as well, because that would make things so much easier, right? So for that reason, I'm extremely bullish cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, which is the sort of the reserve currency among cryptocurrencies, the digital store of value that people have the strongest belief in. But I'm also quite bullish on Ethereum because it's more of an experimental platform where people are doing all sorts of more techie things. Like now there's this whole DeFi hype, which I don't participate in because I think it's currently a Ponzi pyramid scheme. But that's beside the point, because the point here is people are experimenting, playing around, and there's a lot of money that are flooding in, and which is ultimately going to benefit Ethereum as the base layer of the experimentation, right? So I'm very bullish on these two as well. Now, the next class of assets I'd like to talk about are stocks. So obviously, if you pay attention to the US stock market, you'll see that stocks have been going up like crazy as well this year after the huge pandemic dump back in mid-March, right? So I think a lot of that crazy run-up has been fueled by the money expansion once again, because the Fed has been printing a lot of money, and then they're buying corporate bonds with this money, which means a lot of this money goes to the big corporations, which do stock buybacks to pump their own stock price, and then also investors who need to make alpha, they need to put their money somewhere, and in the low interest and monetary supply expanding environment, they have to buy assets, and stocks are the easiest ones that are likely to go up, right? And that's what's been happening. And then of course, people staying home, they're bored, you get your unemployment check, and people start to go on Robinhood, become day traders. So all this retail money is flooding in as well. I mean, it's all fun and good for now, but I'm not certain how long this crazy bubble will last for. It's only a matter of time, I think. But for now, it seems like this is probably not going to stop until at least the presidential elections in the US in November. So, personally, I'm not super familiar with the stock market, so I didn't really, I didn't get involved, and I always felt that the stock prices, market caps of these tech stocks especially, they've been too expensive for too long already, so I never really got involved. But, as they say, as the famous saying goes, a market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, right? So if you were someone who tried to short Tesla a year ago, you would have been in really bad shape. With that said, though, I am personally investing in a couple of stocks. I am buying on a more short-term basis. I've been long into GME, which is GameStop, a video game retail company. They have suffered quite a bit because of the pandemic, because all of their video game stores had to close. So their stock price has plunged a lot, but the chart looks very, very good. It looks very, very positive. And the big thing, obviously, the big factor is we'll have the next generation of video game consoles coming out this Christmas, right? So the new Xbox and the PlayStation 5. So that should be a tremendous boost for that business. And I thought the stock looked cheap, so I bought some, and hopefully we'll see it go up to 2 times or 3 times the price later this year, hopefully. No guarantees, of course. Actually, I think video game stocks in general are quite bullish because as you saw this year after the pandemic, the video game stocks actually did a lot better than the industrial average. So I think companies like Activision Blizzard, Take-Two Entertainment, and all of those esports and gaming ETFs, they've all done very well this year. So that's because obviously everything's moving online, like I said, but also people staying home and they need entertainment, and a big part of that is going to be gaming, right? So I think that's going to be even bigger in the future as well, as people spend more time at home, more time online. Gaming is actually a good way to communicate and to socialize for a lot of people. So I can see the gaming sector in general doing quite well going forward. And another stock I've got myself into is actually gun companies. I know some of you might feel this is unethical or whatever, but personally, the way I'm looking at things right now, what's happening in the United States with all the chaos, the rioting, and the defunding police movements, and now recently I saw on the news some people actually ambushed a couple of police patrols in LA, and they actually shot them. So people are actually going out of their ways and planning to attack policemen, which is really, really bad, obviously, because ultimately, for the average citizen, we need to have these government services like the police to help protect our neighborhoods and our livelihoods, right? So if you don't have that anymore, it's just going to be chaos. But of course, the United States is unique in that situation in the sense that, gun ownership is legal in America, and a lot of people are gun owners. And I think after what's been happening this year, this number will increasingly go up a lot more, like a lot more people. And I'm feeling that sentiment online as well when I look at Twitter and things like that. A lot of people are saying, their views have changed. They used to be anti-guns and all these things, but now, they're realizing that, holy crap, my city is burning and there's no one to protect us. So, in some cases, you have to take matters into your own hands, right? So more and more people are accepting the idea of becoming a gun owner in order to protect their property, and obviously that's bullish for gun stocks. And with the way things are going, I'm sure there's going to be more and more chaos happening in the U.S., at least for the near future, and that makes me quite bullish on gun stocks. So that's a summary of my views for the macro environment for the next couple of years and the things I'm personally invested in. Obviously, this is not financial advice, not professional financial advice, and you should always do your own research and make your own decisions. But at the same time, I'm also curious to hear what you're invested in. So if you have some good recommendations, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I would love to hear them. So until next time.